Welcome to the Speak Her podcast with your host, Camille Essick, the podcast where innovators and creators connect. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Camille. I am host of the Speaker Podcast. This is the podcast where innovators and creators connect. Be sure to hit that notification bell and subscribe. We are back with another phenomenal conversation. Welcome to the month of March. I cannot believe we are here. Time is flying so fast. But before we kick things off, what I need you to do is go right now. Go to Facebook at the Speaker Podcast. Also YouTube at Camille Essick Official. Also follow me on Instagram at Camille.Essick, or you can send me an email at thespeakerpodcast@gmail.com. Now, if you have been following me for a few seasons now, he is no stranger to the show. He is literally like brother, like family. He is a part and ingrained of the Speaker Podcast history. Sealz the Man is back. Sealz, welcome back.
What's going on? It's good to be back on your glorious show. Thank you for inviting me back again. I truly appreciate it. It's a total honor.
Thank you. And it's a blessing to have you here. I think this is our first real conversation in 2024, so we're a little late, but Happy New Year.
Never too late. Never too late.
Yes. So since our last conversation, kind of catch us up with a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So, man, I do a lot. I'm kind of like you. I'm a jack of all trades. So,
yeah.
But we can start with social media.
Okay.
For those who don't know me, I speak on understanding men because I grew up in a household with various backgrounds and various disagreements, I'll say. And a lot of it was based on just not understanding the man in the household. So always wondered what it would be like if people understood each other a little bit better. And since I'm a man, I take pride and pleasure to speaking about the positivity of the mindset of men. So that's what I do. I have a YouTube channel. I need to get back to Instagram. I really, I'm an introvert, so I kind of backed off Instagram. But I do have a YouTube channel where I talk about different various topics about the mindset of men in a positive fashion only. And yeah, it's a little bit of what I do.
That's good. I'm an introvert as well, so we totally get each other. Since catching up, we've always had conversations about love, relationships, mental health from the perspective of a Black man. And so since you started your channel, which is pretty much like a vlog for your nieces, so they can hear about how a Black man, how a good man should sound coming from Uncle Sealz. And in this journey, it's been such a journey for you, but I know you have frustrations. So as a man, how do you deal with like not having downtime or times where you feel like, man, I can't really process what I'm feeling and those frustrations, because sometimes society or life just does not allow you to do that?
Yeah. Since you brought up being a Black man, just being a Black person, it feels like you have to work 3 times as hard as everyone else.
Yeah.
Also work in the corp field, right? So you notice that some people are more advantaged or, given the golden spoon more than others. And just yesterday, I took a wild nap. Like, I never take naps because yesterday I feel like my body just broke down. It just shut down. And because when I work my 9 to 5, I also work my 5 to 9. So That's content creation. That's my YouTube channel. That's, everything else I'm doing, day trading. So it's kind of like I don't have time for anything, especially the important things, right? Mm-hmm. So sometimes, your body and mind will just like put you down without you even having any kind of permission with it, right? So, but on a mental aspect of that, when it comes to not having time for anything, it's more than just trying to make time because someone's important. There's a saying that I hear a lot of people say, you make time for what's important.
Very true.
That's so, but also there's a different side to that, because sometimes you can overload yourself by trying to make time for every important thing in your life. Mm-hmm. And being a man, you feel like you have to be in the forefront all the time. You have to be the head of your household. If you have a family or children or a wife, you feel like you have to be that initiator, that prime initiator. So you feel like you have to put that much energy into everything you do. And sometimes I feel that, I feel like I have to get everything right. It's just not realistic. So that could put a drain on, especially, you know, this as a content creator, you know,
Yeah.
you're trying to please your fans and your supporters, but also trying to take care of yourself, you know, so that doesn't leave much time for you.
So how do you manage, like, what do you do outside of yourself with the content creation to kind of manage those emotions? We've mentioned in other conversations that men that don't have a healthy space to process or express those feelings, either you implode or you explode. It comes out somehow. So how do you handle that? And then part two of that, or what advice would you give to other brothers experiencing those feelings?
Yeah. So one thing that I have a true bond with is my relationship with God. Um, because I have an external source of inspiration, an external source of just even energy, you know, I have something outside of myself that I could depend on. Every morning I wake up early enough and I pray. You know, I pray for the best of the day to come. I pray that that I'm not perfect, but that I make the right decisions for those around me and for myself, and that is filled with peace and love and you know, void of negativity, you know, stuff like that. You know, just starting off my day off like that on good energy is important to me. But when it comes to actual things like with my hands or with my ability, scheduling, I schedule everything I do. I got a huge calendar in my kitchen that I see every single day. And I plan it out a week before. Make sure I literally get a pen or pencil and a pen, and I scratch out everything I do for that day. Right. So that it makes it real. You know, sometimes you can do things and it doesn't seem real. So I was taught that you should write everything you think so it becomes real.
Yes, write the vision, make it plain.
Yeah, because sometimes if you think about it, you know, you ever had a moment where you're just laying down at night about to go to sleep and you think of something great and you like, you know what, I'm gonna write it down tomorrow.
No, I have to write it down at that moment. I have my phone, like my note section in my phone is crazy, and I keep journals all around me because, or paper, just because, like you said, if you don't, it will escape you.
Yep, that's what happens sometimes. You wake up the next morning, you're like, oh man, like I forgot what it was.
Yep.
But the thing you remember is that feeling you had when you thought of that thing and you missed that. You're like, oh, I messed up. You know, so I did that one time and I was like, I'll never do that again. I don't care how sleepy I am. If I think of something, I'm getting my butt up and I'm writing it down. And then I'm going back to sleep.
I appreciate that. I love your transparency, and thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and talk to me, just because I just feel like we've been having these conversations since the pandemic, and I really wanted to create a space for our brothers to really communicate, open up, and share, and do so in a place that's safe. I know a lot of platforms, you know, we hear the red pill, blue pill conversations, and I did not want to cultivate that type of environment here. So thank you for sharing a part of yourself with us throughout your journey and throughout our journey as well. And in having these conversations, you've grown, you know, since we first connected. And in those moments, you have spurts of manhood. So can you kind of unpack the importance of shifting your circle through these growth spurts and realizing I really need to be around a group of guys that hold me accountable to my higher self, to my better self as a man, you know, in Christ, in professional areas, even in social arenas, because, you know, you see sometimes where there are a group of guys and they want to be the good guy, but then the circle can be toxic. So can you kind of really speak to having those circles of integrity and of accountability?
Yeah. So first off, you have to be real with yourself. A lot of guys out here are doing things because they feel like other people think they're cool because they're doing it, or because of other people approve of what they do, or they will get some kind of benefit because other people. Once I got rid of other people, that's when I started to prioritize myself. Right. So when you aspire to be somewhere, when you aspire to be a type of person, you need to be around those type of people. Otherwise, you won't know what you don't know. Right. So me being around other men like me, brothers that I can call brothers, and men that I can call brothers, men of good integrity, men who are open to speaking about their lives. Right. Those type of men, that's what I want to be around with, because I want to be that type of person. If you keep being around the same type of people, you're going to keep getting the same results, right? And that's one of the biggest suggestions that I tell people. I say, hey, if you want something different in your life, you have to create something different in your life. You have to create an adjustment. You have to make something change. Otherwise, there won't be any change. Sometimes it's as simple as that, right? You got to make change to get change. You can't sit here and be in the same circles, doing the same stuff, talking the same way, talking about the same stuff, and complain when you get the same type of people in your environment, or getting the same type of results or the same type of failures. Same equals same. Change brings change, right? So if you want something better in your life, you have to be better. You have to see yourself as better. You have to change your mindset and your perspective in order to get a better result and outcome.
That's good. So, like, in your opinion, what do you think are like some of the unique challenges that Black men face in navigating relationships and expressing emotions in today's society?
Definitely the stresses of life, the stresses of comparisons, the stresses of stereotypes. You'll hear a lot of people say, "Oh, Black men are never there for their children," when statistically that is not the case, right?
Right.
I always hated that. Like, statistically, that is not the case, right? So
It's not the case.
right. So if you don't have true belief in yourself or self-confidence, you will kind of feed into those stereotypes. You'll feed into the things that people think of you because of the color of your skin, right? Even in the court world or the networking events that I go to, or just places I go, I always make sure I represent myself first. I always give them the real me. I'm not trying to impress you, right? So I'm not going to sell myself or my personality or my soul to make it seem like, to give you an ideal version of who I am. No, I'm going to give you who I am. And that's why I need to make sure that I'm in the right spot, that I'm in the right place in my life and in my spiritual life. Like, that I'm representing myself well enough. Right. So, man, I kind of got off tangent.
No, that's good because, mental health is stigmatized in the Black community. So for you're saying showing up as your authentic self. So, like, when we look at these roles, when we're looking at self-care, when we're thinking about self-care, when we're thinking about mental health of Black men, I think you kind of hit it on the head, touching on that. And maybe we can just unpack that a little bit more. Just being unapologetic, just showing up as your authentic self, because there are so many stereotypes and so many norms. So I guess the question would be like, how do societal expectations and stereotypes impact the approach to Black men in relationships and their support for mental health? Just in one thing, just showing up,
Right. And having a good partner or a good woman on your side helps that. Like, it's kind of hard to be, especially when it comes to mental health, it's kind of hard to believe in yourself when you have a partner that doesn't believe in you.
Let's kind of dig into that line then, just because we do hear those conversations about support. And of course, we should have that within ourselves. But like you said, it means so much more when you have that person that is aligned with you or equally yoked with you that really gets that. So what does that mean for you? And let's kind of define that.
So that's a good question. Because if you look at a lot of relationships, especially the successful ones, sometimes you'll wonder, like, wow, them two are together. Like, I never saw that happening.
Like an odd match, maybe.
Yeah. But it's kind of weird. It's like, wow, those two.
What do they see in each other?
Right. Yeah. But the thing about that is that's our perspective. Like, we don't know what they talk about or the things they go through with each other or the things they've done for each other. Right. So one thing I love to do is I love to look at successful relationships and just study them. Like, I'm not afraid to ask questions, right? Because I want to know, like, what's your secrets? What's your gems? What's your advice to ask why y'all are still going on? I know it's not perfect. Y'all doing something, right? So to have that person who is on the same road as you, with the same understanding is important, because it's hard to be with someone who resists you. It's hard to be with someone who has a mindset that is going the opposite direction of yours.
Or even competing. You hear things about people that compete in relationships, or maybe you start on the same level, but then someone takes off and now the other person feels intimidated by that, because now it turns into like a mirror, and now you're witnessing firsthand their discipline, their tenacity, their ambition, their resilience. And sometimes that mirror turns back on you and you kind of feel like, And so when you're in that space, whether if it's done to you or you're that person, now you're having to question some things, because I have heard people say, well, they were afraid the other person was going to take off and replace them. Like, you hear all these narratives, and like you, I do enjoy listening to relationship podcasts, or like you said, what people say about each other. I think within our society, there's a lot of comparison going on, because like you said, an odd match. And I think one of the dangers, particularly of social media, is the fact that because they don't look like they should be together, and we're looking on the exterior, but we have to look deeper than that and not be superficial to say, but what spiritually, how do they match spiritually? How do they match? Are they compatible socially, spiritually? There's so many other levels to that as far as pairing people together, because backstory, I was in the Navy and I was working in the JAG office, and a couple came in. They were Black, and he was search and rescue, super fit, handsome guy, whatever. His wife comes in. She's, a heavier woman, nice face, but she was a heavier woman. And in that moment, I was kind of like, oh, they're married. And I was like, well, that's different. But I took a step back, and I started to observe how they were talking to each other, how she was talking to him, how he was treating her. And I said, I felt bad, because being in that moment we're so quick to judge the exterior. But then I began to look at them from a spiritual lens, and I was like, oh, I can see, because of their chemistry, the love, the respect they were giving to each other. And just watching them interact, and it went from this to, because you could see it, and I was like, I get that. And I think sometimes, I heard a guy say in one of these podcasts, he was like, a lot of guys are picking women based on their looks, and he was like, it's not her curves, her lips, or hips that's going to raise your child. It's the mindset that's going to raise your child. So you have to stop looking beyond the surface and look at the person, because that mindset, the mentality, that's what's raising your children. And we see that on social media with all this foolishness, all this rashness, these aesthetically pleasing people. But when it comes to maturity, spiritual fortitude, and those things, in the deficit, if not bankrupt and lacking.
Yeah, and you see all these divorces happening like clockwork.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we have to, like you said, going beyond that. So going more into showing up as yourself. Have you always been like that, or was it something that you grew into as a man, being more comfortable as a Black man, showing up in spaces? Like, what was that process like for you?
I definitely wasn't always like that. I'm super transparent when it comes to my progress as a man. There were times where I was the total opposite. I was trying to please everybody. In relationships, I was trying to impress her and not taking myself into consideration. Just doing dumb stuff, man, like spending stupid amount of money just trying to impress her, and not realizing that, I was getting used, stuff like that. It's just, you, as a man growing up, you have to learn sometimes you have to learn the hard way. And I will admit, I was very hard-headed in a lot of cases, where I was taught these things on what things to avoid, but I wanted to do it my way, right? I wanted to learn on my own. So sometimes you have to learn the hard way, but sometimes learning the hard way is the best way, because it's kind of like when you're a kid and you touch the fire and your parents said, do not touch that. And you touch that fire and you'll never do it again because you felt it.
It's hot.
You felt how hot it was. There's a difference between getting told not to do something and then getting the consequences of actually doing that thing.
Yeah.
It's a different vibe.
Very a whole different vibe, especially when you got to put the Band-Aid on as a
Yeah.
reminder and then go through that healing process, which
Yep.
is another thing. Like you talk about, getting hurt or burned, but then there's a healing process, and everyone doesn't heal at the same rate or the same way. Some people can get burned and you don't see anything, and then other people can get burned and it's a scar for life. They can have hyperpigmentation. And then within our community, some people even get keloid. So using that
Nerve damage, all types.
yeah. So, as a metaphor, when you look at that as far as in relationships, you can try that, but then how your bounce back may not be the same. So I think that's really good.
And you'll never be the same. And that's a good thing. You'll never be the same after you get burned, metaphorically or physically. Like I was never the same after I went through my consequences as a man. Like I knew after each time I got burned as a young man, it brought me closer to manhood.
That's good.
Each time, because each time brought me a new lesson, a new thought, even broadened my perspective on things. Because then I start to think like, yo, why did I want to do that specific thing? Like in that relationship, why did I want to impress her so much that I sold myself? You start to think about these things. You start to question yourself, and in questioning yourself, you get answers.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Isn't it like whatever you advertise that's what you attract?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. And also whatever you worship is what you attract. So
that's good.
So all right, so I'll say this. So growing up, I was really into girls like with thick bodies, right?
Yeah.
Girls with, bow, whatever. Because it was attractive to me, right?
Right.
But it was to a point where I was actually like idolizing that. Like I only want to mess with a girl who has a nice body, yada yada.
That's still today. Like we see that now with women getting, BBLs because they think I'm shaped like. And you can get an BBL, he'll still cheat and leave.
That's what I'm saying, because it's an empty one. It's lust, So and you'll see the girls that's doing that. They do that because they see in what the men want, but it's not what they need. Like I didn't need that, right? So because of what me thinking like that, I only messed with women who had that, but that hurt me in the end because it was just lust. It was empty wants, right? Yeah. Once I started to go in the direction of what I needed, that's when I got into a better place in my life in general, right? Once you start to go towards the things you need in life and not the things you just want or lust after, things get better.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I guess whenever you're on, there's like all these questions because I'm like, I want to ask him this, I want to ask him that, just because you're just such an open book when it comes to these conversations, which I really appreciate. But it's just like when we're looking at the steps or phases of manhood, and like you said, when you were in that space when you were younger till now, but what guided you? Like, was there someone in your life that kind of directed you, hey man, no, go this way, not this way? Or was that just something that you experienced more so as self-discovery?
It was a combination of things, right? It was a combination of the men in my life, my uncles, my pastor. One thing about them is that they all are in happy love. Like they're not just married, but they're happily married. Like
that's good.
People don't really understand the significance of someone saying I'm happily married, right? Versus someone saying I'm married. Because there's a lot of married people out there who are sadly married,
or a single, like you're married but you're doing everything on your own,
right? Singly married, or you're painfully married, But all the men in my life were happily married, and I aspired and I saw their relationships, and I was like, okay, there's something there. And to this day, they're in that same relationship, that same marriage. So it's like, all right, something's working there. What in him is helping that bond stay this strong, So it was a combination of that, seeing them and aspiring after what they have, and being instructed by men of good heart, men of goodwill, and faithful men. Growing up, I was guided by men who followed the laws of the streets, would tell you, oh, you need to do it this way because this is how you get the bag, or this is how you get.
I hear that New Jersey coming out.
Like, yo, bro, this is what you want to do, all right? Stuff like that. Yeah. This is how you get lit, man.
My friends on the East Coast, so I know. Everything is joined.
Yeah, everything joined. Oh, that's Philly there. That's like South Jersey.
Yeah.
But yeah, just listening to those type of dudes, man, after a while, you keep getting the same results, man. Like, nothing changes. That's why you'll see the same dude talking that same mess at 50 years old, 60 years old, 40 years old in the street saying the same mess. And I just got tired after a while. I'm a Leo, so I'm like very bossy about my life, right? I want to live my life the way it should be lived, So I got tired of that. I was like, you know what? I need something new. I need something that's like good for me. And then that's when I started to, go the other direction. So it's two things. It's like you actually have to have men who want the best for you and who want to show you the right way, and that they're living that life. They're not just telling you that they're living it. And the second thing is you have to be inspired and encouraged by that thing that you want. You have to be around it. You have to take it in. You have to learn from it. You have to be coachable, You got to be humble, So things like that. So you got to see it physically, feel it physically, and you have to want it.
That's good. And you spoke to environment, which is really important, just as far as what we listen to, who we talk to, who we hang around, what we're reading, what we're watching, and living in expectation. We hear this phrase so much. So the importance of protecting your senses, going through these transitions from, the young man to now where you're in grown man mode for real. And there's lots of temptation out here. So what are you doing, or what is your advice to those that are working towards that and having these expectations as far as healthy relationships and family and career and business and education, but protecting what you're entertaining in that process?
That's a good question.
Because, social media, everything is like, all you have to do is scroll. You're one DM away from risking it all. So what do you say? Like, for real, like, it's wild out here.
Yeah, true.
But what do you say to those that may be struggling on the fence or wanting to get out of it or wanting to be a better man, like protecting your senses and your environment in those spaces?
You kind of said part of the answer I would give, and that's to avoid your temptations. You got to be real with yourself, right? And being real with yourself, you have to acknowledge your weaknesses. You got to acknowledge what you struggle with, the things that can tempt you, right? So, in knowing whatever weaknesses you have to try your best to avoid those things. Some people are very easily molded. You'll have people that get taken advantage of because they're so nice. They're too nice to a fault. They just a yes man, yes woman. They will rather please others than please themselves, right? That can be your weakness, or your weakness can be women. It could be men. It could be lust, right? So
the vices, those proclivities that are very dangerous, especially now.
Yeah. And one thing that really taught me that being a human is a journey, because it was when I learned from someone I truly respect, right? And he told me like he has struggles, and I was shocked because I look at this man like, my idol, my role model, and I'm just like, whoa.
But he's a person. Yeah.
I'm like, you struggle with that? And he told me what it was, and I was like, wow. And he told me like all the things that he does to not, entertain those things, as he does what he does in his life. And that made me put myself in perspective, like, yo, what is my weakness? What is what are my temptations? And that's one thing. That's one reason why I kind of stay away from my comments. I mean, not my comments, my DMs in my Instagram, because I get a lot of DMs, of course, and because I'm exposed to a lot of people, but you have to know, like, everybody ain't out there for you.
Right. Yeah. I you know what, which is wild. The DM thing has never been an issue for me. I'm nowhere on your levels on the social media scale, but I am to a degree exposed a little.
Yeah.
Because I still feel like I'm still kind of under the radar. If I look at analytics, like you're up here and I'm like, hey, but it's just like the DM thing has not been my issue. I maybe had one or two and I just mean like, okay, you're weird, block. But that's never been the thing for me. I think because those that really know me when it comes to things like that, I'm serious. I don't play that. I've had guys tell me, I would have talked to you, but you seem high maintenance or like you want too much. And so therefore I wouldn't talk to you. But then in the podcasting journey, I've learned that's crap. That's not an excuse. It's only because your intentions weren't pure anyway. And you figure like, oh, I can't, so, and I had to learn that by having conversations with men like you. And so in these conversations, I'm like, okay, I wasn't interested in you anyway, but the DM situation has never been an issue for me. I may have had some admirers from afar, but no one's been that bold or deliberate to be in my DMs like that. So, yeah.
I mean, it's a good thing. That's a good thing. But it's non-existent to me because I keep that away. Because we put out our content and thankfully, thank God it helps people. But at the same time, it's like, that's it. Like, I'm not trying to have any outside relationships or like conversation unless I, create that conversation. Like I need to be, in control of that. Otherwise you can lose control. And once you don't have control of something in this, atmosphere it could get tricky, so.
Yeah. And I think also too, and looking at things from a social media perspective, we've all have not always made the best choices, but being older, wiser, more mature, smarter about things. And then you probably, I'm pretty sure you can agree, I'm working towards things. You're kind of in it, as far as building your platform, the social media following. And like I said before, one DM can ruin everything because people out here with the screenshot ministry is real. Screen record is real. People have the receipts, and it's just like, it's not worth it for what?
Yeah, it's
what
creepy.
Is it worth? Yeah. So, I was listening to, the Dear Future Wifey podcast last night with Ataris R. Whitfield, and he did a panel, and Dr. Cindy Trim was on there. And at the end of the panel discussion, she gave a story, like a example, and she told a story about a cat that was crossing the railroad tracks, and they were like, "Hey, don't go over there. It's not safe." And the cat was like, "Oh, I'm good. I got it." And he ran across the track, and the train came and took his tail off. And so the other cat was like, "See, I told you it was dangerous. You lost your tail over there." And the cat was like, "Oh, I'm good. I still have everything else. I'm fine." And went back and went across the track and lost his head. And so the more of the story was, don't lose your head over a piece of tail.
That is hilarious. That is hilarious. No, but it's true. It's lust. Yeah, man.
So it was really good. And she kind of gave that as far as the rule of fidelity. But I thought that was cute, but also very, very quick for her to say that, like really smart. So yeah, I think one of the things I want to circle back to as we start to wrap this up, because there's so many things I want to unpack, and we'll probably have to do a part 2 on this, and maybe we can get Evan back on because he was funny. As far as being a safe space for your partner, just because, we've talked before about vulnerability and opening up and expressing yourself and sharing. So what does it mean to you to be a vault, but to also have a vault in a relationship?
I think it goes back to your second question when you was asking like what is to have a person that's compatible with you in a relationship, like what was that question? It goes back to that, right? So you have to be able to trust your partner, or you got to be able to have a trustworthy lover, because I feel like trust is the beginning of love sometimes, in some cases, because before you're able to love someone, you have to be able to like trust to be able to trust, right? In order to like love that person sometimes.
Or like a place of comfort where you feel comfortable enough to kind of say, well, maybe I could kind of open up to this person. Yeah.
But even then, in that comfort is trust, because sometimes we could get comfortable with the wrong things, and now we caught up. You know, now you're like, dang, what am I doing? I'm too comfortable with this person. Yeah. I'm doing some dumb stuff out here. You know, so trust is one of those things, to be able to not only tell the person your darkest secrets, or you know, whatever.
I call it pillow talking. Like you pillow talk with them, right?
Yeah,
like you share,
right. Whatever form it's in, I got to be able to trust myself to be able to take in what you're going to tell me. And that's the problem with a lot of people. They're able to run their mouth and tell people their secrets and all this stuff, but they're not able to hold other people's secrets.
But that's the litmus test. And what I do is I found myself in conversation with people, and I listen to how they discuss other people. And if I'm noticing pieces of information coming out that was then solicited, I'm thinking in my mind, well, I know not to tell them XYZ, because if they're telling me about, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
even if it's something small, I'm thinking, even though that might have been a little thing, and we're talking for 20 to 30 minutes, and these little nuggets, what I call the breadcrumbs, keep coming, then I'm thinking, let me not share XYZ and keep this surface. Like, I'll talk to you enough to where you feel comfortable with me, and you could think, oh, I know Camille, that's my girl. Da, da, da. And I'm like, no, because I've never really shared any of the big things with you. I may mention some things or say, well, you know, da 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 da, but I'm not going to go to that next level with you, because my thing is, I can't trust you with the big stuff because you're mismanaging the little things.
Yeah, for sure. And also, like, pay attention to how people talk about other people and the way they do it.
And that's my point. Yeah. So yeah.
When people just come to you, just start talking to somebody unprovoked, it's kind of like, dang, if you're talking about them like that,
exactly,
how are you talking about me?
Like, that's what I'm saying. It's not solicited, like, you know, and I'm just like, good to know that about you. So good to know. So I feel that there's a litmus test, and there's ways you can have those conversations. And I think for women, because, you know, we have a thing like we want to be loved, and we're nurturing and accepting, and we're just ready to share, you know, and sometimes throwing caution to the wind, and it's like, hold on, sis, pump your brakes. Like, I know he's fine, and, you know, he's hitting all these checks, but let's, you know, like I used that analogy before, that packaging is great, but let's take that paper, you know, out, and that bubble wrap out, those peanuts out, and dig in that box of those contents of the person and see what's really there, because it could be great packaging, but the box can be empty. It's like when you go into a department store on the holidays and you see these big boxes, and it's like, oh my God, that's so heavy. I wonder what's in there. And you open it up, and it's as light as a piece of cotton, and you're just like, this box. So, and I've experienced that before in conversation with a couple of people. Aesthetically great, and then you're sitting on top of them. In my mind, I'm like, did I take my stuff out the dryer? What is he saying? Because it's just, there's nothing. And I feel like when you're having a conversation with someone, there should be some reciprocity. Like, we should learn from each other. We should grow from each other. I should feel challenged talking to you, vice versa. There should be some type of exchange going on. And if I don't leave any better after I've left your presence, then I'm like, what was that for?
Yeah. For sure. Mm-hmm.
I think that's really good. As we begin to wrap up here, it just seems like the hour goes by so fast when I talk to you, just because we talk and yes, it goes fast. I tell people it goes fast, and that's why we have to continue to do these conversations and segments. Because when I like to try to respect people's time. But do you have any gems, nuggets, or takeaways for the viewers and listeners until you come back? And then also where people can find you on social media.
I just want to say, like, I love like the new additions that you bring into your podcast. It's awesome. You had a little takeaways. I was like, oh, okay. Like I've been with you for like 3 years now on your podcast. So like
all the little takeaways and then the kind of
you go from like that point to this point. So and also congrats on getting over 350 subscribers. Got like 362, I think, right now. That's really good on YouTube.
I feel like, oh my God.
I remember when you had like 10. So like that's really awesome.
You know what? I'm just like, okay, God, you got me doing. And what's so wild? I'm going to be transparent. I want to say around. It was after the episode I did with you and Evan. Things had happened like in the middle of the summer. And I was just like, God, you know what? But all of this, and it was like I really tried to walk away from it. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna do summer and I'm not doing this. I'm taking a break. I'm gonna go on sabbatical. And God was like, but what did I tell you to do?
Right.
And he had to really check me, like, I'm the one. Remember, you didn't even want to do this. Remember you had the lash thing going on and you were doing makeup and lashes at the sellers. You weren't even trying to do the podcast thing. I'm the one that told you to do this. But now you're getting stuck on the analytics of it. But that's not the reason why I told you to do it.
Right.
And so after that and coming back to it, my heart about it is very different. And so although I've always attempted to put up my best foot forward, I was like, no, I really need to show up more. And so that's one thing of the things when I came back, I just started the 2024 season as of last month. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, if I'm going to be obedient to, because you can do something and halfway do it and then technically you're still disobedient. It's like, no, show up with excellence, do what he told you to do. And so at that point, I was like, let me do a little more as far as the intros. Let me work a little harder on the graphics. Let me work a little more on the content as far as I feel like I've always tried to dig deep, with my guests, but really get into the heart of my guests and their mind as far as when we talk about love and relationships, particularly with Black men. As you know, I have a heart for you all. I think y'all are dope, but I really feel like I want you all to be heard. So every time I bring you on or bring Evan on or bring on another brother, my goal is I want you all to be heard and I want your feelings to be validated and I want the world to know that you are appreciated and we do care about what you think and how you feel about certain things, because there are so many spaces for women, particularly Black women with the girl boss brunches and all that. But I want a space for you all to feel comfortable and unpack it. And my podcast, even though I do have women on here, but I want this to feel like a warm, fuzzy couch for you too. So,
yeah, you're doing an amazing job at it. I told you this before. You don't worry about the numbers. You can only worry about what you can control, and that's it. And most things in life we can't control. So that's when I found peace in God, right? Because I realized that I couldn't I couldn't control everything.
Yeah, I think now that I've thrown that out, I'm good with that. But then last night I did look at the numbers and it was like, you're streaming in 48 countries, you're streaming in 936 cities. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
Okay. So
People are watching, So
yeah, this not in America.
yeah, right. Everywhere else but here. Like, what kind of mess is that?
It's all good though, but
Yeah, my
no,
grandma
I just
always told
appreciate
me.
you.
Yeah, my grandma always told me that, like, once you start to put your goals in front of God's goals, you'll fail every time. And once I
Yeah,
understood that, I was like, all right, man, because most of the things I want is what I want, and those things usually fail because I'm thinking about
yeah,
human things or earthly things or things that don't last,
yeah,
right? The things that God wants for us are eternal. So those are the
yeah.
most important things, right? So you might want numbers, but God wants happiness for you. So it's like, what is more,
Yeah.
numbers or happiness? You know,
But after that, I want to call you Zell, Lord. Sealz.
government.
I'm sorry. But offline. But it's just like I really care about the conversation just because there's so much out there. Just you have to filter through so much of the muck and mire. And I just really want to have meaningful conversations with our brothers to impact the community and the culture and
Yeah.
really dig. And sometimes it's like, did she ask me that? Why is she asking me the same question a different way? Just because I see it from so many vantage points. But I really want our brothers to have that aha moment and even see themselves in men like you. I think that's really important. So to have you here and on this journey with me, it means so much because I really feel like you do have something to say. You do have something to bring to the table for our Black men and even also for our women so they can hear how a good man should sound. Just because
Right.
we hear so much toxicity in conversation. And so to train their ear so when they hear a good man, I know that sound. But when I hear a knucklehead, I know what that sounds like too, because now I have something to compare it to.
Yep. Exactly. That's important.
Yeah.
And that's why I did my YouTube channel for my two nieces, man, because it's like,
Yeah.
I can't imagine how dude's gonna be in the future. Like, I can't imagine like what's going to be out there, the new technology, the things that's going to be at hand for for people. So I'm just like, hey, no matter what happens in the future, the core remains the core, right? The main thing remains the main thing, and that's respect, love, decency, honor. Those things never change no matter what. So as long as you have that instilled in you, you should be good.
That's great. And then, like, what little piece of advice, just as we begin to close out, do you have for those listening or watching now or later?
Especially when it comes to content creators in general, innovators, as this is what your podcast is a champion, is to keep the main thing the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's been my quote for this year, 2024. Keep the main thing, because once you keep the main thing, you'll always be on track, right? So I have days where I'm tired, man. I'm tired, and I come home and I'm just like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. But I know because I'm keeping the main thing, even if I do something that's small, I'm working towards a goal. Some days I'm gonna have the energy. Some days I'm gonna get that caffeine in the morning. And I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's do this. And I'm doing big that day. Some days you need to rest, right?
Yeah, listen to your body. Like,
Rest is just as important as working, because you can't work unless you rest, right? So it's like every day, keep the main thing. Remember, keep your mind on your goal, and so that all your actions will be dictated by that goal. Right. And make sure that your goal is worth it. Make sure that your goal is worthwhile, And I always believe that make sure your goal is bigger than you, because when your goal is bigger than you, that thing is never going to die. Even when we die, that thing is going to be here still because it's bigger than us. Right. So don't make it all about you. That's my suggestion. Keep the main thing the main thing.
That's good. And then where people can find you on social media, I know I do try to pop in on some of your videos and leave a comment. Always cheering for you on YouTube. Come on back to the gram.
I gotta come back.
It's like the Instagram is not paying me, so I mean I really don't have
That's
to.
what I'm saying.
Let's be real. Check.
Yeah.
Cut your check. I'll show up.
Instagram was acting a little shiesty with the pay, man. Oh, yeah.
You know.
But Yeah, you can find me at Sealz the Man, Sealz the Man on all things, YouTube, Instagram. I got some things coming out this year. I'm working on a book. Been getting a lot of requests for me to write a book. So I've always wanted to write a book anyway, but now that I have people like, yo, you should write a book.
What is it going to be about? Like,
I'm still working on it. So
okay,
I'll give you the insider. I'll give you the sneak tip.
Because I'm like, I want the exclusive interview when it drops. I'm so serious.
Awesome. Yeah. So I want to talk about like 5 stages of manhood, of healthy manhood. And I'm going to create 5 different ebooks or books talking about those different things, those different moves, those different colors of what it looks like to be with a man, a healthy man, a good man, a decent man. So I'm working on what the 5 things are going to be. And I have an idea, but I want it to be a collection at the end of the day. And
bundle.
Yeah, bundle, you know what I mean? Bundle is life. So I'm working on that. So that you can have this, even when the internet is down, you can't watch my videos or something like that.
Listen, so between AT&T going out was
telling you
before last, and then well, the thing is, when that happened 2 weeks ago, I was fasting that day, so I didn't know anyway. And then when the social media went off or went down, I think it was on Tuesday.
Yesterday.
Yeah, I wasn't on anyway, so I was like, I didn't even miss it just because I was just kind of like, I've been more intentional about my social media time.
Right.
So at that time, I was just kind of like, well, I'm not really on at this time anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But when I heard about it, I was like, I didn't even miss it. So
me too. I think that's a good thing for us. I think that's a good thing because that means being dependent on social media. Because I found out later after, I was like, huh? It was down.
Yeah, people were posting and complaining, and I was just like, this is so bad. Somebody said during the time when I think it was YouTube, Instagram, they all went down, and it was kind of a snarky comment. They were like, oh, you just lost your whole ministry for 2 hours. And I was like,
crazy.
On these online, I was like, that is so
messed up, yo.
Kind of messed up. But
so it's kind of like, if you don't have something on the outside of this thing, you kind of,
That's why websites are important. That's why having other channels outside of Instagram and Facebook, which was one of the reasons I think what happened before talking to you, it pushed me more to working more on my YouTube channel because of having those multiple areas as far as directing people. So yeah, that's very true. So speaking of websites, do you have a website?
Yeah, sure. Yep, I do. I'm surprised I didn't give it to you by now. My bad. It's iamsealz.com.
Okay, so we'll have to drop that when we do the clip on social media. Also, I just want to thank you again just for joining me. It's always a joy having you here, and I look forward to bringing you back again. Looking to plan some things for later on this year, maybe a panel type situation, and hopefully you'll be available when you're not traveling to hop in on that. So I definitely will. And for those of you that tune in tonight, now or later, thank you so much. Be sure to follow me on different platforms. We're on Facebook at Speaker Podcast, on YouTube at Camille Essick Official, on Instagram at Camille.Essick, or you can shoot me an email at thespeakerpodcast@gmail.com. And be sure to hit that notification bell and subscribe. That way you stay in the loop with the latest. Tune in next week. Our guests will be the Bellingers. This will be a part 3 of their conversation. I cannot wait to sit down. They are very entertaining as we continue our love marriage and relationship conversation. It kicked off with, we had the Isabels, and then we had the Wilbans, and now the Bellingers are returning. So I look forward to that conversation. The week after that, we're going to sit down again with Prescott Mack, and then we're going to close out the month of March with the Men of the Let's Rap podcast. They're returning for part 2 of the conversation, and I look forward to that. Those episodes all air live on Facebook and YouTube at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 Central, and that will be 5 o'clock up here on the West Coast. So I'll see you all very soon, and thank you to everyone for subscribing to Sealz Just a Moment. And y'all be blessed and be safe this weekend. Get some sun. See you on the next one. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Speak Her podcast. Be sure to follow Camille on Instagram at camille.essick, Facebook at the Speak Her podcast, or www.camilleessick.com.